He wasn't born into power, he built it, punch by punch. Explosive counters that stop men in their tracks. Body shots that echo like gunfire. Defense so tight it feels like hitting a wall, and offense so sharp it cuts through champions like silk. Canelo didn't just beat opponents, he dismantled them, layer by layer, until there was nothing left but silence and respect. And when the final bell sounds, his empire awaits. A private jet slicing through the clouds, carrying him from one paradise to the next. A yacht gliding over turquoise waters, sun glinting off polished decks. And where the streets become his runway as he cruises in his Bugatti Chiron, the engines growl as commanding as his presence in the ring. So, before we take you inside the power, precision, and dominance of Saul Canelo Alvarez, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. Because this isn't just boxing. This is the rule of an undisputed king. Born on July 18, 1990, on the sun-baked outskirts of Guadalajara, Jalisco, Santos Saul Alvarez Barragan grew up far from the bright lights of fame. The youngest of 8 children, 7 of them boys, his life began on a humble family farm, where days were spent riding horses and helping with chores. In that crowded household of fighters, gloves were almost as common as plates on the dinner table. His fiery red hair earned him the nickname Canelo, a rarity in Mexico that made him impossible to forget. But it wasn't his looks that set him apart, it was the quiet, unshakable drive in his eyes. By 15, while most kids were still in school, he was stepping into the professional ring, showing the poise of a man twice his age. From there, his story became a relentless climb. He captured his first world title at just 20, stood toe-to-toe with Floyd Mayweather, and came back stronger. He tamed the feared Gennady Golovkin, conquered multiple weight divisions, and etched his name in history as the first ever undisputed super middleweight champion. Outside the ropes, his dominance translated into staggering wealth. Fight after fight, his earnings shattered records, topping Forbes' boxing earnings list. By 2025, Canelo's net worth soared to an estimated $250 million, built on blockbuster pay-per-views, massive fight purses, and lucrative endorsements. But behind the belts and the fortune lies a deeper question: how did a boy from rural Mexico rise to rule the sport's biggest stage, and how much further can he go? The answer begins in the ring. Before the lights, there was a teenager stepping into makeshift rings across Mexico, fighting for little more than pride and the hope of a better life. His amateur career was brief but ferocious. In just over 20 amateur bouts, he developed a style beyond his years, patient, calculating, and armed with a left hook to the body that would one day become his signature. By 15, with a face still too young to grow a proper beard, he made the decision most would call reckless, turning professional. He debuted in October 2005, weighing barely 140 pounds, knocking out his first opponent in the 4th round. From there, the wins came fast. Mexico's boxing scene began whispering about the flame-haired kid from Guadalajara. The television network started taking notice, airing his fights nationwide. Canelo didn't just win, he dismantled his opponents with a mix of power and precision rarely seen in fighters his age. By the time he was 20, the whispers had turned into roars. In March 2011, he stepped up to face Matthew Hatton for the vacant WBC light middleweight title. Under the lights of the Honda Center in California, he boxed with the composure of a seasoned champion, outclassing Hatton to claim his first world title. For most, that would have been the pinnacle of their early career. For Canelo, it was just the opening act. 1 year later, in May 2012, he faced the legendary Shane Mosley. That night, Canelo didn't just handle Mosley, he controlled him, answering every trick with sharper counters and heavier punches. Critics who doubted his legitimacy as a champion began to quiet down. Then came Austin Trout in April 2013, a slick, undefeated southpaw who had just beaten Miguel Cotto. Many predicted Trout's awkward style would frustrate Canelo. But in front of a roaring crowd at the Alamo Dome, Canelo dropped Trout in the 7th round and won a unanimous decision, unifying the WBC and WBA titles. But every great fighter meets their trial by fire, and for Canelo, it came in September 2013 against Floyd Mayweather Jr. It was billed as The One, a meeting of two undefeated stars. What followed was a masterclass for Mayweather, slipping punches, controlling distance, making Canelo miss in ways he'd never experienced. It was a humbling night, a majority decision loss that exposed the gap between Canelo and the sport's very best. For some, a first loss shatters the myth. For Canelo, it became the foundation of his evolution. He studied the defeat, changed his training, improved his head movement, and refined his counterpunching. 2 years later, in November 2015, he was back on the big stage, this time against Miguel Cotto for the WBC and the ring middleweight titles. Canelo fought with patience, breaking down the Puerto Rican great over 12 rounds, earning a unanimous decision and silencing anyone who still doubted his championship pedigree. In September 2016, he returned to light middleweight to face the undefeated Liam Smith. After 8 rounds of calculated punishment, Canelo landed a crushing left hook to the body in the 9th, a shot so brutal it folded Smith instantly. It was the kind of knockout that made headlines worldwide and reminded everyone that Canelo's power was as dangerous as his technique. Then came the rivalry that would define an era, Gennady-Golovkin. In September 2017, the two met in a fight billed as a throwback to boxing's golden years, two prime champions, no catchweights, no excuses. The bout was war, with Golovkin pressing forward and Canelo countering brilliantly. When the final bell rang, the judges called it a split draw, but many believed Golovkin had done enough to win. The controversy only heightened the stakes for their rematch. A year later, they met again. This time, Canelo fought fire with fire, standing his ground and meeting Golovkin in the center of the ring. It was a brutal, high-skill chess match under punishing physical demands. After 12 grueling rounds, Canelo's hand was raised via majority decision. He had done what few thought possible, he tamed the feared Golovkin and solidified himself as the king of the middleweights. But his ambitions didn't stop there. In December 2018, he moved up to super middleweight and destroyed Rocky Fielding in 3 rounds to claim the WBA title. Then, in May 2019, he beat Daniel Jacobs to add the IBF middleweight crown to his collection. 6 months later, in one of his boldest moves yet, he jumped 2 weight classes to face light heavyweight champion Sergey Kovalev. Against a man with a size and reach advantage, Canelo bided his time, then unleashed a right hand in the 11th round that left Kovalev slumped against the ropes. He was now a 4-division world champion. His crowning achievement came in the super middleweight division. Between December 2020 and November 2021, he fought and defeated 3 undefeated champions, Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, and Caleb Plant, each in their own style. Against Saunders, he shattered his orbital bone with an uppercut. Against Plant, he scored an emotional 11th round knockout, becoming the first undisputed super middleweight champion in the 4-belt era. It was history. But boxing has a way of reminding its champions that nothing is permanent. In May 2022, Canelo moved back up to light heavyweight to challenge Dimitri Bivol. Bigger, sharper, and defensively sound, Bivol outboxed Canelo over 12 rounds, handing him only the 2nd loss of his career. It was a setback, but Canelo refused to dwell on it. He returned to super middleweight, defended his belts, and reminded the world that his reign was far from over. In September 2024, he faced the young, undefeated Edgar Berlanga, a fighter touted as the next big star. Under the bright lights of Las Vegas, Canelo showcased the gap between good and great. He controlled every round, landing precision counters and veteran traps, cruising to a unanimous decision victory. In May 2025, he dominated William Skull in Riyadh to unify all 4 super middleweight titles, WBA, Super, WBC, WBO, and the Ring, while adding the IBF crown. Using sharp counters and body shots, he controlled the fight and proved his championship edge remains intact. Now, all eyes turn to his much-anticipated showdown with Terence Crawford on August 13, 2025, a clash of champions that could define the year in boxing. He has faced legends, humbled champions, and tested himself in divisions where others feared to tread. Yet, for all he has accomplished, one question remains: at 34 years old, with more than 60 fights behind him, how much higher can he still climb? The world is watching. And in boxing, the next punch can change everything. Away from the roar of the crowd and the blinding lights of fight night, Canelo Alvarez lives a life defined by family, faith, and a quiet kind of luxury. At his core, he remains deeply Catholic. Love has played its own complicated role in his journey. Years ago, he was engaged to Marisol Gonzalez, Miss Mexico Universe 2003 and a familiar face on Mexican sports television. But life took him down a different path, one that would eventually lead to Fernanda Gomez. Their relationship, tested over the years, finally found its perfect moment in May 2021. In the heart of Guadalajara, beneath the towering arches of the city's cathedral, Canelo and Fernanda were married in a ceremony that felt less like a spectacle and more like a homecoming. Together, they share a daughter, but his role as a father stretches beyond one home. He has 3 daughters and 1 son, each from different chapters of his life. The man who has faced some of the fiercest fighters on earth often softens in their presence, trading gloves for gentle laughter. And yet, even with the world at his feet, one question lingers: when the final bell of his career rings, will Canelo find the same fulfillment outside the ring that he's always found within it? From the roar of million-dollar engines to the stillness of ocean views from his private deck, Canelo's lifestyle is as much about statement as it is about comfort. In California, he once lived in a mansion that looked like something pulled from a Hollywood dream, a sprawling 11,000 square foot estate in the elite Del Mar Country Club, where chandeliers glowed against rustic California stone walls, a private library whispered of quiet nights, and landscaped gardens framed the ocean in the distance. Now, his home base is in Guadalajara, inside the exclusive Puerta de Hierro community. It's modern, sleek, and deeply personal, with championship belts hanging like trophies of war and a garage built for supercars that cost more than most houses. And that garage? It's a symphony of power and personality. When Canelo craves speed, the $3 million Bugatti Chiron waits to unleash its fury. For pure thrill, he turns to the Lamborghini Aventador, its V12 scream announcing his arrival long before he's in sight. On days when style takes the front seat, the Ferrari LaFerrari glides out, a rare beauty that turns heads without trying. The Rolls-Royce Ghost handles the quiet, elegant nights, while the Tesla Model X offers a smooth, silent ride when he wants to blend in. He still keeps a Ferrari Testarossa, a boyhood dream brought to life, and a lineup of Harleys and Ducatis for those open-road escapes. For the skies, there's a $35 million Gulfstream GV jet. For the seas, a yacht so luxurious it bears his own name. Alright everyone, stay tuned for the latest in boxing news, highlights, events, and stories. Subscribe to Legacy Round and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Be sure to watch our other videos too. Until next time, take care and stay safe.